Happy Sunday night, guys. Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina with another live stream fishing show. That's right, it's Sunday night and it is time for that live stream show. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Need a few seconds to get things rolling here, but we are live. It is Sunday night, May 17th at 8:28 p.m. We are getting ready for our Sunday night live stream show. If you haven't joined us for one of these live stream shows, where have you been? Where do you live, under a rock? These live stream shows are every Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. for about an hour, where we talk all about nearshore and offshore fishing tips, tricks, and more. And tonight we got a great show lined up for you. Gonna be talking about what's coming up, talking about what we've been catching, and of course answering your questions. You can have your question answered live on the show if you text that question to that phone number in the upper right hand corner of the screen, 727-393-1947. That is the Hubbard's Marina main phone number, and you can always text us at that number. But tonight for the show, text us at that number, and that's where your questions will populate so I can answer them live during the show. Also, keep in mind you want to comment on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream in order to be eligible to win. We are going to give away some free fishing trips tonight, and in order to win those free fishing trips, you do have to comment at least one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook video stream. So go to Facebook, go to Hubbard's Marina's page, find that live stream video, and that's where you comment and get a chance to win a free fishing trip. So hopefully you guys have some good questions for me tonight. We're going to be talking all about what's going on, what's coming up, and what we have to look forward here at Hubbard's Marina. Don't forget to share your video stream if you're watching on Facebook. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and your favorite fishing group or on your timeline. Also, don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up for us. And then also don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We'd appreciate it. So if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and thumbs up. If you're watching on Facebook, give the video a like and make sure you share the video for us. We would appreciate it. We're going to get started here in just a few more minutes. Just need a few seconds to get everything working on my end. Hopefully you guys have a drink, some popcorn, and some good questions ready for the show tonight. As always, we're going to be answering your questions live, talking about what's going on, what's coming up, what we've been catching, and then answering your questions. So sit back, relax. You're in for a hour-long ride down, hopefully some fruitful nearshore and offshore fishing tips, tricks, and more. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It is Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. If you're watching live Sunday night, May 17th at 8:31 p.m., hang in there. We're going to get started in just a minute. If you're not watching live, you can skip forward to where you see the video start. You do have to be watching live in order to be eligible to win, and you do have to watch the entire video in order to claim those free trips. How it works again: you have to watch the Hubbard's Marina video stream. So on Facebook, go to Hubbard's Marina, find that live video, comment one time, that enters you to win, and then watch the entire show. And if you're picked as one of the lucky winners at a random time throughout the show, you got to text that number in the upper right hand corner of the screen in order to claim your free trip. That's how it works. So hopefully everybody's on board with that and understands how it works, because we are ready to get rolling. We've already got some questions messaged in here, so appreciate those of you starting to already send some questions. Again, that phone number is in the upper right hand corner, 727-393-1947. That is the number you text to get your questions answered during the show. All right, and with that, let's get rolling. Happy Sunday night, guys. Again, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. Hubbard's Marina has been fishing local waters since 1928. 4 generations, nearly 100 years. Our family business has been offering nearshore and offshore fishing. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about everything and answering your questions live during this Sunday night live stream show. Hopefully you've seen the show before. Hopefully you enjoy the show. If you haven't, we do this Sunday night live stream show every Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. right here on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook and the Hubbard's Marina YouTube channels. So thanks for tuning back in for another episode. So we're going to kick things off by showing you what we've been catching and what people have been catching around the area. We start inshore first, show you what's been caught inshore around the area, and then we'll work our way near shore and then offshore. So start things off right inshore. Let's show you what's been being caught. Here's a nice redfish that was caught off our dock the other day by Noah. This is Noah in the blue showing off that nice redfish he caught and released. And this is a nice big old snook here. Beautiful fish caught over there by Scully's in the hut. Nice little cobia in the back bay waters. The pompano bite's been pretty good around the jetties of Johns Pass. Seen a really good redfish bite in upper Tampa Bay area and around the South Shore and mangrove shorelines, oyster bars alike. We've been seeing a lot of snook action in the pass. Johns Pass is holding a ton of snook, as I'm sure Blinds Pass, Paso Grill, Clearwater Pass. Those snook are starting to stack up in the passes and moving on to the beaches for their summertime spawn. A lot of people sight casting snook during the day on the beach. Then these triple tail as well around the mouth of Tampa Bay, around our beaches, a lot of triple tail. The trout action has been good throughout the area. Lots of nice trout at night around the bridges and bridge lights and dock lights. During the day, edges of the grass flats, great areas to find those trout. Here's a nice snook, beautiful fish caught during just before sundown. Another nice fish. There was the inshore rundown. That was all photos from this past week inshore. Now we're moving near shore, show you what's been caught near shore. Hogfish are still biting. We're catching some nice hogfish here and there. Hogfish bite isn't as good as we would want it to be. It's a little slower than it once was, but we're still catching a few nice hogfish. Here's one from the 10-hour all day the other day. Nice fish for sure. Still catching a few kingfish here and there. Kingfish are still biting well. Those hogfish slowed down a little bit. We're still catching them on our 5 and 10-hour trips and a few on our private charters as well. The Hub private charter pulled in a nice big old hogfish the other day from around 60 foot of water. The kingfish action is going really well near shore, anywhere from about 30, 40 foot of water all the way up to about 150 foot of water. We're seeing those kingfish in that depth range. Mackerel from the back bay all the way out to about maybe 80 foot of water. We're seeing plenty of mackerel. So kingfish, mackerel still around, hogfish still biting, catching a few of those cobia near shore. Blackfin tuna near shore kind of fell off a little bit, but we're still seeing them offshore, thankfully. Speaking of offshore, let's show you some photos from that 39-hour fishing trip that came in this morning. Unfortunately, I was a little late to the fish pile, so I didn't get the big pile of fish on video like I normally do Sunday mornings, but we do have some good videos to show you, thanks to Tammy and John Martin for taking some photos. Here's a kingfish from the troll. Oops, didn't mean to do that. And another kingfish on the troll. Nice big old mangrove snapper fishing at night. Austin Collins and his dad. Beautiful mangrove there, Gabe. Nice mangrove snapper. The mangrove snapper bite's been really good offshore right now. Big old porgy. Photos oriented the wrong way. Craig Hammock and Will with a nice porgy. Another nice mangrove snapper. John Martin with one of my favorite eating fish, one of those strawberry groupers. Jim Kendall, nice big old fat red grouper. That's a monster red grouper there. Another nice red grouper. The red grouper bite's been pretty darn good. Been seeing some nice red grouper. Here's a here's an amberjack. The amberjack bite's been a little tougher than we would have liked. They're really spread out through the area, but we're catching some nice amberjack. And oddly enough, we caught a few amberjack on the troll. Here is a monster yellowtail snapper. That fish is a beauty. One of the best eaten fish that we catch for sure. Definitely in my top 5 to 10 eaten fish. Definitely a beautiful catch for sure. And I think that was about the end of it. So that was the 39-hour highlights. You can see them again real quickly. We'll scroll through. Big mangroves, a few yellowtails, some kingfish, some fat red grouper, a couple amberjack, and then some heads and tails like the almacos and porgies to round off that box. Definitely a slower trip than we would have liked. Didn't catch as many fish as we would have liked. The bite during the day was much tougher than it has been. Excuse me. So this 39-hour trip that came in this morning had a little bit of a slower bite, like I mentioned, during the day. But at night, they did really well through the nighttime period on some nice mangrove snapper, few yellowtails, porgies, almacos, even a red grouper or two. And then during the daytime, through sunrise into mid-morning, the bite was pretty good. But once mid-morning rolled around, the bite just kind of fell off for us on this weekend 39-hour trip. Luckily, the half-day trip and the all-day trip did pretty well today. So the daytime bite didn't totally die off near shore, but offshore over the weekend it was a little tough during the daytime on that recent 39-hour. And it's odd because the last 2 long-range trips, we've had really bad current. We were fighting the current, and the current was running really, really hard, making fishing difficult. And then all of a sudden, we finally had a good trip with no current issues, and then the bite was a little bit tough. So it's sometimes the weather can be too nice when it's flat calm out there, not a lot of wind, not a good anchor heading. Sometimes those fish just lock up on us. So interesting how fishing happens. It can be too rough and it can be too calm. You have to find that happy medium. But definitely a good trip as far as putting the trip together, catching some nice fish. They just had to work for it a little bit harder than they would have liked for sure. So let's get into these questions. The first question here is, do you guys ever catch any wahoo on any of your trips? We definitely see wahoo from time to time on our long range trips while trolling. We've also seen some of the biggest wahoo that I remember from our trips. We've just happened to run across on the flat line. We'll pitch them a rod or pitch them a bait when we're able to get lucky and see one come up to the boat. Here is a great example of one of those just lucky wahoo. This was I remember it to be like 90 pounds, but Will and I were talking about this fish the other day, and he said it was like 83 or 85 pounds. But it was a monster wahoo, and this one was caught just completely by accident while bottom fishing with a chicken rig and squid. They were actually catching almaco jacks on a special 39-hour private charter from Mote Marine Lab. So if you haven't heard about it, if you haven't been watching fishery news, the almaco jacks, they're actually opening up an aquacultural farm off of Sarasota, and that aquacultural farm is going to be a huge net floating out there on the water, and they're going to be raising almaco jacks for food, and for food for people, so for commercial sale. And actually those almaco jacks are what we went out there and caught. So about 2 years ago, Mote Marine Lab came out and chartered the Florida fishermen. We put these big vats, basically made aquariums around the Florida fishermen, and we caught these almaco jacks, and they put them in these vats. And then we took the boat back home. They loaded the vats onto trucks, and they brought these almaco Almaco jacks back to Moat Marine Lab and actually bred them out, and their brood stock, which means their next generation, their children, they brought those fish, and that's what they're going to be using in these aquacultural nets. So it's a really, really cool thing to see these fish make it a couple generations down the road and now be part of an aquaculture project. But long story short, towards the end of that trip, while targeting those Almaco jacks, they happened to come across that monster wahoo. It actually probably ate one of those Almaco jacks that was being reeled up. Now, we've also caught some big wahoo while trolling, some 60, 70, 80 pound wahoo while trolling. One of the bigger wahoo that I remember that was kind of odd was on a 12-hour trip on the party boat. The Friendly was out there during the day on one of those 12-hour red snapper trips that we used to run, and they actually hooked an 88 pound wahoo on a pitch rod. So there was this younger angler, really good fisherman, out on the trip, and sure enough, this huge wahoo swam up the side of the boat, and he saw it. He was able to tail hook a pinfish on a spinning rod with 40-pound test and flip this pinfish out in front of this wahoo, and it came up and smacked it, ate it, and he was somehow able to make laps around the boat over and under people's lines with 40-pound test line on a spinning reel to land this 88-pound wahoo. It was a monster. I tried to pull up the photo while I was talking, but I totally failed. But it was a beautiful fish for sure. So to answer your question, we definitely catch wahoo on our trips. It's not something that I would say we do a ton, but it's definitely a probability on those longer range trips. Anything fishing beyond 50, 60 miles, you'll have a chance to run into them. We see them a lot in the spring and early fall, and we see them occasionally through the summer, and we even see them in the wintertime too. It's one of those things. Once they start getting caught, we see them a lot more, but I would say primarily spring and fall, but they're pretty much here all year round based on the water temperature and those currents and those water temperatures on the surface offshore and deeper water. So keep your eyes peeled and be prepared. What species do you target on a 39-hour trip in September or October? So one thing that I get a lot of is, what are you targeting this time of year? What do you catch this time of year on your 39-hour trips? If you go onto our website, hubbardsmarina.com, and you click fishing trips, you can scroll down to where you see specialty trip schedule. On our specialty trip schedule, that's going to list all our 2020 specialty trips, our 39 hours, our 12-hour extremes, our 12-hour night mangrove snappers. All those trips are listed right here on this specialty trip schedule page, and they tell you what we're targeting. So in September and October, we would be targeting amberjack and red grouper, gag grouper, mangrove snapper, but unfortunately we don't have a lot of 39-hour trips in September, October. We only got one 39-hour September 1st, and then we got some 44 hours. We got a 44-hour September 4th and a 44-hour October 30th. And those, again, are targeting similar things. Amberjack are open only for the month of May, and then August, September, and October. So we'll be targeting amberjack while they're opening. And then in the fall, we always see some nice gag grouper action, especially once you start getting into October, November, December. We see more of those gag groupers cooperating better. Red grouper are open all year. Mangrove snapper bite well all year. So that's kind of depends on as far as what we're going to be targeting and catching. It depends on what's open, and that's what we're going to be targeting, and what's biting, because obviously we're going to be trying to maximize our catch and targeting what's open. Let's see here. Can you speak about venting red snappers about 2 inches under either pectoral fin, correct? So venting fish is super important, especially with red snapper coming around. So what I always recommend is go to your favorite Google or search engine and type in how to vent a fish salt Strong. And if you type in how to vent a fish, Salt Strong, it'll bring up this how to properly vent an offshore fish. And this was not what I was looking for. You want to click on the Salt Strong article. So it was the second result. I apologize. The video was the first result. But this Salt Strong article, saltstrong.com/articles/how to vent a fish. This article is going to have a ton of helpful information pointing out where to vent. And also, it's got a nice little video in here somewhere. There it is. So we'll watch this real quick because it's important.
All right, so I got the fish up off the bottom. When I felt that bite, I gave him a quick couple spins of the reel to hook that fish. Now I've got him hooked, and I'm up off the bottom, so I'm just going to finesse him. If he digs, I'm going to let him dig, and I'm just going to slowly reel him up. So now he's digging a little bit, and I'm up this to me feels like a nice snapper. If he digs, I'm shaking his head a little bit. What's funny is a lot of these snapper species, they have kind of the same head shake, kind of a quicker head shake, a little easy to tell what's a snapper. And a lot of times the snapper species will kind of give up. I have a feeling here in a second we'll see my rod tip kind of come up a little bit, and he'll kind of give up a little. See right there, his head shakes. He stopped digging. He's just kind of coming up smoothly now. So with these red snapper, trick to these guys, get them vented quickly. And you never want to poke or try to vent the fish in his stomach. You always want to try to vent the fish right where his fin kind of comes down. You can use the pectoral fin as a target. You just lift up the scale and puncture right in there through his swim bladder, and you'll hear the air escape. Once that air escapes, he's ready to go back down to bottom. That air
And one interesting thing here, you'll see where I was poking that fish was right towards the leading edge of that pectoral fin. Nowadays, they recommend actually getting closer to the base. So anywhere from the leading edge of the pectoral fin all the way to the base of the pectoral fin, anywhere in this range is going to be a good spot to vent that fish. So it's moved a little closer to the base of the pectoral fin, essentially.
Once that air escapes, he's ready to go back down to bottom. That air escaping is what allows him to swim back down to bottom. If you don't vent the fish, he's going to float away and die. So it's very important that you vent the fish properly, get him back in the water quickly. That way he has a chance to go back down and live another day. That way you can catch him next year when he gets a little bit bigger.
So great video there at saltstrong.com. Again, you can just Google it, how to vent a fish, Salt Strong, and you can also find that on our website. On every one of the long range trip pages. So go to fishing trips, go to long range, go to 39 or 44-hour trip, and that's actually going to be linked right there. It's going to be linked in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Here's a great place to learn the do's and don'ts of venting a fish. That's that Salt Strong article page that we were talking about. And one question I've been seeing a lot was checking the tides. And as far as checking the tides, it's another great Salt Strong product. Just go to smartfishingtides.com. So again, Google Smart Fishing Tides, and Smart Fishing Tides is going to bring you up this Salt Strong page that they created. It's a really cool page. You can pick where you're fishing. So obviously I'm going to pick John's Pass, and Smart Fishing Tides. Again, Smart Fishing Tides is what you're looking for. It's actually going to bring up a little calendar and show you what the moon's doing, and it's going to give you a 1 out of 10 score on the best days to go fishing. And this is more focused on inshore fishing because it's basing everything off the tides for that specific location that you chose. It'll tell you the best time of day where the bite's the strongest. It'll tell you when the bite's not the strongest. And it's all based on local information on that specific tide buoy that you chose. So Smart Fishing Tides, if you're interested in looking up tides. And again, that's also right on our website. Everything's on the website. Under fishing trips, you can scroll down to weather links, and it's going to show you that tides page. Under the weather links, you can scroll down to where you see tides and Solunar information, and there's that Smart Fishing Tides page. So everything is on our website. I always forget to point to the website because it has everything. I really try to put everything on the website for you. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? Can you explain your flatline setup? Thank you. So flatlining is interesting. So a lot of people get confused as to what flatline fishing is. So essentially flatlining is when you're bottom fishing, you've got this conventional reel and you're dropping a lead down to the bottom and you're fishing on the bottom. Flatline is just a term that we use that means you're not fishing the bottom. You're actually fishing up in the water column, either on the surface or subsurface or maybe middle of the water column. And basically you're doing that for any passing pelagics like kingfish, tuna, cobia, mahi-mahi, sailfish, whatever it might be. That is what flatline fishing targets. So my flatline setup a lot of times is a conventional reel, like a snapper reel, because I like a lot of braided line, a lot of line capacity in that reel. But a lot of people just flatline with a spinning reel because you have more casting ability to get that bait further from the boat. So if you can't cast a conventional reel as easily, or if the current's running kind of funny or funky, sometimes a convention or a spinning reel is a little easier to cast out away from the boat. But flatline fishing is one of those things that you can't always do, especially on a party boat situation, because you really got to pay attention to that flatline and make sure that the tide and the wind is and the boat's not swinging, and basically make sure that that flatline is not interfering with someone else fishing. If you're on your own boat or a private boat, or you're on a private charter with just a few people fishing, flatline fishing is very, very easy to accomplish because you're not going to affect anybody else's ability to fish on the bottom. So if you're going out party boat fishing with us, flatlining is not always possible. So as long as you approach the situation knowing that there might be a situation, if the current's running at you, you can't put out your flat line. If the boat's swinging real hard, you can't put out your flat line. So there's situations in where you can flat line and situations where you can't. But essentially, you're using free line, no weight, and you're either doing a stinger rig or a just simple bare hook. Now, most of the time, if you're doing a bare hook fluorocarbon leader with a tail hooked pinfish or a dead thread fin, that's going to be targeting those cobia, those tuna, those sailfish. If you're using a stinger rig, that's generally going after those kingfish, those wahoo, those toothier critters. Generally, most everybody puts a stinger rig on their flat line because kingfish are going to be the most common thing you run across. And if you use lighter wire, you still have a chance to catch a cobia, a tuna, or a sailfish on that stinger rig. It's just more common for those fish to eat fluorocarbon over the wire leader because they're leader shy and they're smart and they can see that wire. So it kind of depends on what you're targeting, what time of year it is, and what fish are around the boat. But a flat line can also be a pitch rod. So if I get in a situation where I've got a spinning rod or a conventional reel rigged up with a stinger rig, but the current's not running right, I might keep it within an arm's reach, because if I see a sailfish or if I see a tuna or if I see a wahoo or a kingfish or whatever pelagic fish, I can quickly grab that rig or setup and then toss a bait out and present it to that fish up on the surface. So it's a good idea to have a flat line on the boat. If you can flat line if conditions allow, great. If you can't, keep it nearby and use it as a pitch rod in case you do happen to see one of those fish come close to the boat, close enough to present a bait to it. Let's see, what other questions? When is red snapper season? Red snapper season starts June 1st and it goes all the way to the end of the day, August 1st. So red snapper is almost here. We're very excited. And speaking of fishing trips, I think it's time to give away one of our free fishing trips. We're going to give away a free 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Free 5-hour half day for 2 guests. So we're going to pick one lucky winner. If you're picked as that lucky winner, you got to text that phone number in the upper right hand corner, your home address. So if your name pops up on the screen, make sure you text us and claim that free trip. So let's see who is the lucky winner of that 5-hour half day trip. Dennis Mills from Orange Park. Shoot us a text, Dennis. Congratulations, buddy. You just won a 5-hour half day for 2 people. All right, so let's get back into these questions. We got some good questions going on tonight and want to make sure we get to as many as we can. So let's see what other questions we have here. Next question, can you give some nostalgia regarding the fish hanging in the foyer of the Friendly Fisherman? So the Friendly Fisherman Seafood Restaurant is the restaurant next door to Hubbard's Marina. That is our family's restaurant. So back in '86, my uncle and my grandfather and some of the other family members partnered, and my uncles actually built the restaurant in the mid 80s. And so back then it was legal to sell our recreationally caught fish. So they built the restaurant with the model that our party boats and charter boats would go out fishing, they'd catch fish, and they could come back and sell those fish to the restaurant for fresh seafood. So it was great back then. They had their own fresh fish supply, but in the late 80s, early 90s, that became illegal. So they had to start procuring their own fresh fish, but the restaurant still has great seafood. The Friendly Fisherman is awesome. Our family does not manage or operate that restaurant anymore. It's operated by Levrock's management company because my father and his siblings are no longer involved. They just own it, and they hired Levrock's management company to actually operate the restaurant. But long story short, still great seafood, still technically our family business. But the restaurant has these fish mounts hanging around, and a lot of those fish mounts, I would say all of those fish mounts, all of those real fish mounts, there's some skin mounts in there, but all the real fish mounts hanging in the Friendly Fisherman were actually caught on our boat. Like there's one grouper, it's 105-pound true black or carbureted grouper that's hanging in the restaurant. That was caught by my Uncle Jeff back in, I don't know, the 70s or 80s on a 39-hour fishing trip. Back then it was like a 32-hour fishing trip. So there's definitely some nostalgia over in that restaurant, but it's been a while since I looked at all the mounts, so I'm not recalling all of them off the top of my head. But I remember when I was a kid, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, my father had this trailer, and we would take this huge wooden trailer and we'd trailer it all over the state of Florida and even into Alabama to go to these Florida Sportsman Fishing Expo shows. And we'd set up this trailer, we'd build these wooden walls, and it was like a walk-in shack. So we'd trailer this thing into the expo hall and set it all up, and we'd bring those fish mounts to every one of those things. So I was intimately familiar with all the fish mounts because I had to hang them up and take them down every day for 3 days, 10 times a year when we go to all these different trade shows. So I think that's where a lot of my public speaking ability came from, because from a young age I was doing 8, 10, 12 trade shows a year with my dad, hanging out, talking to people, and talking fishing. But nowadays we don't do trade shows, we do this. Thank you for saving me all that travel and hard work setting up trade show booths, because I like hanging out and doing these live shows a lot more than fishing expos. Let's see here. What does the weather look like for Friday's 39-hour, and how is the new moon bite? So the weather is, again, right on our website. It's a really cool little weather links page. I kind of glanced over it before. If you go to Fishing Trips, scroll down to the weather links page. The weather links page is where we house all the different links to show you what the weather is going to be doing. So for our 39-hour fishing trip, it looks like we're going to have some nice weather over the weekend for that Friday 39-hour fishing trip. Looks like less than 2 foot, going to be gorgeous this coming weekend for that 39-hour fishing trip. But that new moon is going to be popping. So it's a new moon Thursday into Friday. And the new moon means a great bite of fish. It means the current's going to be going. It's going to get that bait moving. It's going to get those fish excited. But it's always a good idea on a new moon and full moon to bring some extra weights, because there's a good chance the current could be running strong. So you want to bring some 4, 6, 8 ounce weights. You want to bring a lot of 6s, a few 8s, a few 4s, and then you want to also remember maybe some 10, some 12, maybe even a 16 ounce weight, because if the current's bad, you want to be prepared and make sure you have some extra weight. But the new moon bite is typically pretty good. It typically means the daytime fishing's a little bit better. So hopefully that daytime bite that we struggled with this past weekend on the 39 hour should be a lot better this coming weekend on that 39 hour. The weather looks really good for it. There's still a few spots open. It was sold out. Now there's a few spots left open, but not many, because we're still severely limiting capacity on our trips. Let's see here. What is the next question? How bad are worms and amberjack in your area? So a lot of people have the misconception that amberjack aren't good eating. On the east coast of Florida, for example, if you take someone who fishes Port Canaveral, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, they don't typically keep amberjack. They catch and release them over there, and they avoid them because on the east coast their amberjacks are super wormy. You catch an amberjack, fillet it, it's filled with worms. On our coast, on the west coast of Florida, we have a good amount of amberjack, and they're primarily 95% of the time worm free or very worm less compared to the east coast. So if you take an east coast amberjack and a west coast amberjack, you put them both on the fillet table and fillet them, it's really clear which one's which, because those east coast jacks have a different diet and they tend to get more parasites. The west coast, our amberjack typically stay less worm free or more worm free than the east coast amberjack. So to answer that question, worms aren't that bad in amberjacks on our coast. Yes, there's a worm or two here and a worm or two there, but they're not totally wormed up like they would be on the east coast. And if a portion of the fish is, sometimes it's right towards the tail is where we see a lot of worms, and you can just cut that section of the meat off. But there's a lot of different fish out there that's going to have parasites, like red grouper, occasionally gag grouper. Some of the snapper species have them occasionally. Amberjack are common. Some of the pelagic species. It's one of those things that we run into out there. And me personally, as long as it's just one or two, I just cook it up and eat it. It's just extra protein. And as long as you're cooking your fish, it's not a big deal. So the worms don't bother me too much. But if it's really wormy, it might be a different story. But we don't run into that, luckily. Let's see here. Next question. Do you have to have a spot on the back of the boat to troll? Technically, the back of the boat has first right refusal to troll. So if everybody on the back wants to troll, then it would be a little bit difficult, but that is almost never the case. So you don't have to have a stern spot to troll. If you are unable to book the stern, or if you booked later and you don't have a spot on the stern, 9 out of 10 times there's going to be an open spot to troll. But the people who did book the stern do have first right refusal to troll. Now keep in mind, trolling is an extra option. It's not what we're out there to do. We're going bottom fishing. It's a bottom fishing trip, so you need to have some serious trolling tackle in order to troll. And the only trips that we troll from are 5-hour half day, 39-hour trips, and 44-hour trips. On our 10-hour trips and our 12-hour trips, the boats are moving too fast to troll. So it's only 5-hour, 39-hour, and 44-hour trips, and you need some big reels in order to be able to troll. And you need specialty tackle. If you got all that specialty tackle and you want to bring it with you, go for it. But the rods we rent can't troll, and the rod you have in your garage can't troll unless it's a big, big reel, like a 50 wide or 80 wide 2-speed reel with some heavy, heavy drag. But to answer the question, no, you do not have to have a stern spot to troll. Do you fish the same area on your day trips as the overnight trips? So on our 12-hour extreme day trip, we would fish similar areas than that we do on our 39 and 44-hour overnight trips. But there's hardly any trip where we fish the same spots or the same set of spots multiple days in a row. Typically, we're moving all over the map. Once we find the fish feeding well in a certain area, yes, we'll communicate and we'll all kind of dial in on those fish, but we don't fish the same fishing spots on any trips back to back. Generally, the rule of thumb is you fish a spot, then you wait a few weeks to come back and fish it again, letting that spot regenerate. Let's see here. Next question is, can anyone from can anyone out from state of Florida visit fishing trip now? I'm having trouble with this question, but I think what they're asking is, if you're out of state, can you come down and go fishing? And the answer is yes. There are people traveling from out of state into Florida to go fishing. Do I recommend it? Probably not. It's might be a little early to travel. I don't think I'd put my family on a plane to travel, but there's people doing it for sure. There's still airplanes running. There's still people coming in. I know one of our staff members had some family flying in today, and they went to the airport to pick them up, and the airport was packed with people traveling. So there are people traveling. And as far as the quarantine periods, I'm not sure. I think if you're from one of the hotspot areas, New York, New Jersey, and I don't really know. I've been focused on just Florida specific news, so I don't watch the news a lot. I watch the weather, and I check out the governor's Facebook page to see updates on the COVID-19 thing, and I stay up to date with what our city and our county are doing. So I'm not really sure what the feds are doing as far as traveling, but I talked to people today that traveled from Ohio to come fishing. So you can do it. Is it recommended? Do I encourage it? No. But hey, once we get into phase 2, leisure travel is resumed. So we're not quite there yet. We're still in phase 1. But you can travel down here. No one's going to stop you, and we'll still take you fishing. If you're targeting the largest red snapper, what bait is best? Sardines, live pinfish, or bonita strips? So, in my opinion, for red snapper, it doesn't much matter. Red snapper will bite just about anything. In my opinion, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but in my opinion, red snapper are way, way blown out of proportion. In my opinion, they're an aggressive fish. They're super easy to catch if you're in deep enough water and you're in the general area that they're in. They don't take a lot of skill. They're not that good eating. I personally don't like red snapper that much. They're so highly sought after only because the season is so short. We only get 60 days out of the year, and starting in April, every other day. When's red snapper? If red snapper season's not open, I'm not going fishing. And it just doesn't make any sense to me because there's so many fish out there that are more challenging to catch and, in my opinion, more fun to catch, that taste better, that are more challenging to get master angler status of, like mangrove snapper, yellowtail snapper, hogfish, gag grouper, strawberry grouper. There's so many different fish out there that are open almost all year. They don't have these short arbitrary seasons, and they're really good eating, and they're more tricky to catch. So in my opinion, more fun. Mangrove snapper, for example, is such good eating fish. Yellowtail snapper, hogfish, scamp grouper, gag grouper, African pompano, and all these fish, except for gag grouper, are open all year round. So red snapper, in my opinion, are way, way overrated. But still, come red snapper season, we're going to have tons of people come out of the woodwork that don't fish with us any other time of the year unless red snapper's open. It's funny how that works, but hey, it's a popular fish, so I can't down it too much. But red snapper, they eat just about anything. If you want to target a really big red snapper, a really big sardine, really big pinfish, or a bonita strip works best. If I was fishing, I'd be using 60, 80 pound test, a big hook, and a big old slab of either dead bait or live bait. Bonita strip is probably one of my favorite red snapper baits, but it does get picked on by a lot of other fish. A big live bait works really well for red snapper, squirrel fish, a big pinfish. Like I said, they eat just about anything, so you never know. Even vertical jigs, even bucktail jigs, naked ball jigs, banana. I've seen red snapper caught on banana. I've seen them caught on chicken wings. They eat anything. If the fish are there, they will eat anything. And as far as catching the biggest one, generally it's at the top of the water column or the very bottom of the water column. The biggest fish are always at the top or bottom of that school of fish. So find out where they're biting and fish the top or the bottom of the school with a big, big bait. Whether it's a big dead bait or a big live bait, that's going to be your best bet to try to catch one of those big red snapper. All right, let's go ahead. I think it's time to give away another free trip. This go around, we're going to give away a free 10-hour all day. Right now, we are sitting at 120 live viewers on YouTube and 360 on Facebook. So that's a lot. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. That's 480 if my math is correct, which generally it isn't. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're going to give away a free 10-hour all day for two. And then later in the show, we're going to give away that free 39-hour trip for one person. But for now, 10-hour all day for two. Let's see who the lucky winner is tonight of that 10-hour all day. Christine, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but she was the nice lady who sent in her hogfish photo that we showed earlier. So that was good luck. She submitted her hogfish photo, and look at that. She won a free trip. That's pretty interesting. That's got to be good luck. Remember, if you're picked as the lucky winner, you do have to claim your free trip by shooting that phone number in the upper right-hand corner a text message with your home address within about 5 minutes or so of you being picked as that lucky winner. So, Christine, congratulations. Make sure you shoot us a text to claim that free trip. All right, let's get back into the questions. Diving deep. I skipped one. Just got a 12-aught pen for trolling on your trips. That is a big reel. Is a 100-pound mono good? Yes, 100-pound mono would work. 80-pound mono would work. I'd probably use 80-pound for the top shot. Maybe use 100-pound for the backing, because that is a huge reel to fill up with line. So you could probably fill it with a 100-pound mono and then throw a little 100-yard piece of 80-pound mono on top of that 100-pound. So you're not using a 5-pound spool of 80-pound to fill that reel, but that is a big reel. It should get the job done. I personally like the 2-speed reels better, because that way you can reel it in much faster when the boat slows down. But that'll work. It'll crank in those fish for sure. It'll have plenty of power, and it can double as a massive amberjack reel once you're done trolling. How does the moon phase impact fishing, and should I consider it when booking a trip? I mean, the moon phase definitely has an impact on fishing, but so does the weather, the water clarity, the salinity, the atmospheric pressure. So many different variables go into effect when you're planning a trip. My favorite saying is the best time to go fishing is when you have time or when you're available. If you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy. So in my opinion, if you start looking at salinity, chlorophyll, moon phase, this and that and this and that, you're never going to go fishing because it's never going to be the perfect time. Generally, the perfect time doesn't exist. You might see it on the calendar. Oh, this day looks really good. And then as you come closer to that day, a cold front comes or a high pressure settles in or whatever it might be. It might be overcast, whatever it is. Or COVID-19, something stupid like that. You never know what's going to pop up in your life to stop you from getting out in the water. So in my opinion, if you're able to go fishing and look back on it later and be like, hey, that was a really good trip. I wonder why. And then over time you can pick up, hey, this works. Hey, this doesn't work. As a charter boat captain, we don't really have the option. We're going fishing. And if we know it's going to be a slow day because of this or that, we try to warn our guests. But it's ultimately fishing. It's a lot like gambling. Sometimes the machine's going to hit. Sometimes it's going to be a cold day. So you never know. But we generally do pretty well out there. And we wouldn't have been around for nearly 100 years if we made a habit of a lot of cold days. So generally the machine's a little hot, and that's a lot of luck, a little bit of experience, and some great fishermen on deck with us like you. So come out and try it, and next time you're available, let's go fishing. But the moon definitely has an impact on fishing. New moon, full moon, more currents, more bait moving generally gets those fish excited. So a day or two before the full moon, a day or two after is good. And the same thing is true of the new moon. Generally on the new moon, the daytime bites a little better. Full moon, nighttime bites a little better. That's generally the rule of thumb, at least near shore and offshore. A really simplified rule of thumb. I was wondering how much gas do your 39-hour fishing trips use? None. Our boats run on diesel. So our 39-hour fishing trip generally burns between 400 to 600 gallons of diesel on an average trip, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And at almost $4 a gallon, sometimes it gets very expensive to run those 39-hour trips. And that's just fuel costs, not alone paying our great captains and crew and getting ice bait and all the other expenses, the rods, the reels, the tackle, the wear and tear on the motors. It's a pricey game to go fishing, but we're blessed to have a great team that keeps our boats running as well as they can, being big boats. Boats are not a cheap avenue to go down, let me tell you. Let's see here. What's the next question? Always was amazed at the activity under the dock when fish are being cleaned. Have you ever put a camera down there? Not sure how you'd make money off that, but the traffic would be crazy on a live cam. And we've gotten that question quite a bit. Why don't you put a live webcam under your fish cleaning table? It would definitely be something really cool I'd love to do. I have put a camera down under our fish cleaning table before. So I just pulled up our YouTube channel. You can go to videos, and it's going to be one of our oldest videos. So we're going to sort it by oldest first. Oops. So one of our oldest videos, because this was back when I had a lot of time on my hands. There's a lot of underwater videos, and a lot of these I shot myself. Like that one I shot myself on one of my shark fishing charters. But here's the fish cutting table. Oh, of course we got an ad. Hate ads. Except for my ads. I like my ads. Here's a shot of the fish cutting table. So this wasn't a very clear day. Right now it's crazy clear around our dock. We had some manatees the last 2 days. What's today? Today is Sunday. So no, Friday and Saturday we had manatees hanging around the docks almost all day long. It was crazy how many manatees were around. This is not the video I remember. There's some other videos on our YouTube channel that were a lot clearer. There was one that was like a tarpon swam by and everything. Now we're getting into some old 39-hour videos. But there's some really cool videos on our YouTube channel. We've got a little collection for sure. This is another feeding. No, that's not it either. I'm not going to waste a lot of time trying to find it, but yes, I have dropped the camera down underneath the cutting table, and we have seen some really cool stuff under our cutting table before. This was on the hub, so this wasn't under the cutting table, but there's some really cool videos. If you're ever bored and you want to kill some time, check out the Hubbard's Marina YouTube channel. There's endless videos on there to hopefully entertain you. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? On the 39-hour trip, do you have a menu for food, or is it just the meal package? So our boat galleys are small. They're not big, huge commercial kitchens. So generally, on a 39-hour trip, a 44-hour trip, 10-hour trips, we have a set menu. So prior to the trip, this is what we're cooking for this meal, this is what we're cooking for that meal, and we stock the boat with those supplies for those meals. So generally, like for breakfast on a 39-hour trip, Tammy will have some options. You can do pancakes, you can do an omelet, you can do an egg sandwich, and it's not very extensive. And if you have a meal package, that meal is free. If you don't have a meal package, you can purchase it if you so choose. And the same thing for dinner. Dinner is generally, all right, this is what we're having for dinner with this side and that. And if you have a meal package, that meal is free. If you don't, you can purchase it. But do we have a menu like I want this and that and this and that? No, it's not. Doesn't work like that on the boats, unfortunately, just because we don't have extensive room for extensive prep and extensive storage. And it's the same reason why a lot of people ask, why do you only have Bud Light and Miller Lite? Well, we don't have a lot of room for storage. If we could have 15 different craft beers, we would, but we just unfortunately are limited in storage space on a boat. Designed the boat more towards fishing than galley storage, unfortunately. But maybe in the future, future boats that might change. Who knows? Next question is, how is your son doing? Your baby Jack. Baby Jack is doing good. He's huge. He is 8 months old. He's turning 9 months in a few days, but he's already in 12-month clothing. It's crazy. Little dude can stand up and grab my belt loops, and I'm a tall guy, so he is crazy tall. He just had a huge growth spurt, super long. We haven't been to the pediatrician in a while to get him weighed or measured because of COVID-19 and that whole thing, but we're going to the pediatrician, I think, this coming week. Don't tell my wife, I don't remember exactly what day, but we're going to the pediatrician soon, and I can't wait to see what percentile he falls in as far as height is concerned. Last time it was like 110, so I'm hoping to break that this time, but we'll see. He's definitely getting very long, and he's sitting up on his own. He's eating solid food. It's pretty cool, and he's starting to actually. 2 days ago, he stood up on his own. Not walking yet, but he's got to be close. He has started swimming lessons, which is cool. Next question is, do all deep water fish need venting? That's a great question. And as far as venting fish is super important, but you have two options. So you can vent a fish or you can use a descending device. A descending device is super easy. You don't have to use a sharp object. You don't have to stick the fish. You don't have to know where to stick the fish or how deep to stick the fish. A descending device is super easy. Sequelizer makes a really nice one. They got tons of videos on how to use it. It's around $65-$70, but it works really well. It's super easy to use. Makes it really easy to make sure that fish makes it down to bottom. And it doesn't hurt the fish because you're not poking them with a sharp tool. Venting a fish, a little bit more difficult because you have to know where to vent it. You have to be careful not to poke it too deeply. You just want to penetrate that fish just a little tiny bit, just enough to let that air escape. You're not trying to stab the fish. So venting is definitely more difficult, takes a little bit more skill and practice, but venting is very quick. So descending device, really, really easy to use. Pretty much idiot proof once you watch a video or two or read the directions. Venting really fast, but it takes a little bit more skill and practice, and sometimes is a little bit more difficult on those larger fish. Now, do your fish need to be vented is the first question. Does it need to be vented? Does it need to be descended? And the way you figure that out is a lot of times that first fishing spot, you anchor up, you catch a fish, you unhook it, you throw it in the water, close to the boat. If it goes right down, no problem. Fish don't need to be vented. But if it floats on the surface, floats away and dies, then yeah, it's going to need to be vented, and all the rest of your fish are going to be needed to be vented. Generally, in the summertime, as shallow as 70, 80, 90 foot of water, when the water's really hot, you have to vent those fish. In the wintertime, when the water's cooler, it holds more dissolved oxygen, and you can be fishing as deep as 100, 110 foot of water, and you don't need to vent the fish. But it's pretty easy to tell after your first fish or two if you need to vent all your fish or descend your fish. So general rule of thumb is first fishing spot of the day, toss the fish back close to the boat, see if he swims down. If he does, great, don't worry about venting or descending. If he floats away, it's not swimming back down, try to capture him with a net and vent him or descend him in all following fish. Make sure you vent or descend. Great question. Let's see here. Can you flatline from any position on the boat? No. Generally, the current has to be running in a certain direction. So if you're in a corner, if you're up in the bow, that's the best areas to flatline most of the time. But sometimes you can't flatline anywhere because the boat's swinging like crazy, or you can't flatline because the current's running at the boat right in your face. So generally, flatlining is a good luck thing. Sometimes the conditions allow. Sometimes you'll be flatlining, everything's working fine. An hour later, current changes, and now you can't flatline. So it's one of those things on a party boat that you have to kind of try it, see if it works. General rule of thumb is talk to the crew. The crew will kind of point you out to the best area to try it. If it works and it's not causing problems, great. If it causes problems, we got to shut it down. Let's see here. What about the new Salt Strong giveaways? How does that work? I don't know. I don't know what Salt Strong's giving away nowadays. But they're always doing something cool over there at Salt Strong for sure. And speaking of Salt Strong, I forgot to mention, we're going back to Google. If you go to Google and type in saltstrong.com, so saltstrong.com /HUBBARD. So saltstrong.com /Hubbard. If you go to that website, of course, well, you used to be able to go to that site. Oh, I spelled salt wrong. So saltstrong.com /Hubbard, HUBBARD. It brings up this cool page that Salt Strong created for me. And we have that Red Snapper Mastery course, our Grouper Mastery course, and Mangrove Snapper Mastery course, plus a 1-year membership to the Salt Strong Club, all for one low price. I think they charge like $97 for it, but those courses are really cool. It's all Salt Strong products, but I helped them create it. They worked with me. We were out on the boat like that video I showed you, and we're showing you the information right there on the boat. It's really cool stuff, especially with red snapper season coming up. A lot more people are going to be offshore. Highly recommend those courses. And you buy the 3 courses and you get a year membership in their club, all for one low price. So again, saltstrong.com /Hubbard if you're interested. Definitely check it out. Pretty cool deal. Let's see here. One other announcement I wanted to make sure we emphasize is we've added a new 39-hour trip. That's right, a brand new 39-hour trip, May 29th. So it is the last May 39-hour trip. It's the last chance to get a few keeper amberjack before they close June 1st. So May 29th, Friday, May 29th. So not this Friday, next. There's only 17 people on that trip right now, so tons of room on it. Last light load because red snapper season starts June 1st, and the boats will start getting busier. So definitely think about joining us for that new 39-hour trip, May 29th. Also wanted to announce our new and improved online store. Not quite done yet, but I still want to give you a sneak peek. So if you go to hubbardsmarina.com, hover over store, and go to Marina Store, we just are we just worked on updating our online store. So we have a ton of apparel going on our online store, but we got our new de-hookers on the website. We got our reels that we sell, and we got our custom rods. The rods are in-store pickup only. We're not shipping the rods, but we'll ship the reels, the de-hookers, the shirts, the hats. And the shirt, hats, and a bunch of other stuff is still going on the store. So bear with us. The store is totally a long way from being completed, but we've got all the products in place. We're just trying to make sure that they look proper before we put them up. But at least a few products are on there now, and it is open. You can purchase from the online store today, tonight, tomorrow. If you're interested in buying one of those reels that I suggest, or the custom Hubbard's Marina rods, you can purchase the rod, you can purchase the reel, and we can have it paired up, ready to rock when you arrive in our shop for your 39-hour trip, or your 12-hour trip, or your 10-hour trip, or whatever trip you're doing with us. So definitely check out the online store, and keep in mind we're still ironing out the details. More stuff like our cool new Salt Strong, or our cool new Salinity, and our cool new Saltwater Hippie shirts. There's a ton of really cool stuff going on that store, so check it out later this week once we finish updating it. Let's see, I think we talked about everything else. As far as the virus is concerned, a lot of people have been wondering what we're doing. So on our website, if you go to hubbardsmarina.com, under reservations, under fishing trips, under info, you can find that COVID-19 operating policy and procedure page. We have the capacity change on our vessels. That's good until May 30th. A lot of people are asking, hey, what are you doing in June? So we were hoping that we'd be a little bit further along as far as opening the country back up, opening Florida back up, and unfortunately we're just not that far along right now. So we're inching our capacity back up right now because the state of Florida is in full phase 1 opening. Restaurants are at 50% capacity starting tomorrow. So we're going to inch our capacities up since we're only at 25% capacity, but we have to still honor that social distancing. So in order to socially distance people, groups, it's a little tricky to do that, and the only way to do that is to keep limiting capacity. So we have a manager meeting this tomorrow, and I'm going to be spending all week brainstorming and designing and trying and applying. Right now we've been basically, before trips, we're limiting capacity super low to 30 people on our party boats. Now we're going to be bringing 35 people, so we're inching that up a little bit, but we're still having to, right before a trip, move people around to where we have plenty of, or as much space as possible in between groups, honoring that social distance. And basically your fishing spots are not guaranteed, your bunk spots are not guaranteed, because we got to move people around to try to give everybody that space. The cabins are closed. All that information is right on the site on that COVID-19 page, so check it out. And as far as June is concerned, we will have a definite answer and a definite hardcore plan in place for you to read by Monday, May 25th. So not tomorrow, next Monday, May 25th, is when we'll roll out our plan for red snappers, or not for red snapper season, for June. And then hopefully at some time in June we'll be into phase 2, maybe even phase 3. Once phase 3 rolls around, we don't have to socially distance anymore, and we won't have to limit capacities anymore. But I don't know how long that's going to take, so we have to come up with a plan for red snapper season, and we're going to roll that out May 25th. So to answer your question, not 100% sure yet, but it looks like we're going to have to limit capacity to ensure that distance is sought. No matter what you think of the virus, no matter if you think it's fake, or you think it's the worst thing ever, or you're scared of it, or you're not scared of it, I don't care. And unfortunately, as a business, no matter what we think, we still have to follow guidelines, restrictions, and we have to do it for the safety of our customers, the safety of our staff, the safety of our families. So the opinions on the virus can be left out of this, because we're a business. We have to follow city, state, federal regulations. So we will be limiting capacity and honoring social distancing if that's required. And even if it wasn't required, we'll probably still do it because we closed before we were forced to, because we were trying to keep our families safe. And we're going to do the same thing through red snapper season. So most likely that means we will have to limit capacity. As far as how much, we're going to let you know Monday, May 25th. But for example, on a 39-hour trip in June, if we're sold out with 50 people and we have to limit capacity to 35 or 40 or 45 or whatever that number is, we will go based on the order that you booked. That is the fairest thing to do, in my opinion. There's been a lot of talk of people saying, oh, you should charge more if you're limiting capacity. That would be nice to help us recover some of our losses, because we lost our entire spring and now we're going to lose a majority of our summer because we're basically limiting ourselves and telling people they can't come fishing with us. That'd be nice if we could charge more, but I don't see how that would be fair. Us limiting capacity definitely supports the guests and supports our safety of everybody, and definitely is a benefit for the guests. They're going to have a higher quality experience, less people on the boat. It's going to be a lot better fishing with 30, 35, 40 people instead of 50 people. But it's a crappy situation. So I'm still holding out hope that we won't have to limit capacity, that we'll still be able to take 50, but it's not looking very good right now. And if we do have to limit capacity, what we're going to do is based on the order of reservation. So if you reserved first, you're going to be going out for sure. If you reserved last, there's a chance that we could have to cut some people from the trips in order to obey state, federal, and city, county regulations. But time will tell. Bear with us. Hold on hope. Say a prayer with us, and we'll let you know Monday, May 25th. And when is phase 2 coming? When's phase 3 coming? What's our capacity going to be? I don't know yet. You know as much as I do. We're all held hostage by the bureaucracy of COVID. So all we can do is be as safe and cautious and prudent as possible. So work with us here, people. And if you're going fishing, keep in mind that your spots are not guaranteed, your bunks are not guaranteed, and we have to work together to stay in operation, because we could get shut down if we don't follow the rules, and that's definitely not what we want to happen. We want to try to provide as much opportunity for you to get out of your house and onto the water and enjoy some fun in the sun and stay healthy offshore, because in my opinion, that's the safest place to be, is out in the sun, outside. Outside transmission is severely unlikely. The sun apparently kills the virus. I don't know. I'm just a fisherman, not a whatever you call those people that study viruses. But now I'm depressed talking about this stuff again. Let's go ahead and wrap up this show. And yes, I'm touching my face because I'm in my house and I'm secluded and safe. So don't say anything about that. I don't touch my face outside the house right now, though. All right, so let's give away a 39-hour fishing trip for one person. 39-hour fishing trip for one guest. Let's see who wins a free 39-hour fishing trip for one person. Let's see here. All right. Free 39-hour trip for one guest goes to Toshi from Atlanta. I am so terrible at pronouncing names. We're boarding boats as groups now, and I'm having to pronounce a lot of names, and I'm not good at it. I apologize. But congratulations on winning that free 39-hour trip. Remember to claim it by texting us at that phone number in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Text us your home address. We'll send that out to you, Toshi. Also, everybody who's watching, hopefully I pray to see you next week, Sunday night, 8:30 p.m., same time next week, same bad channel. Hopefully we'll see you there. Hopefully we'll see you at John's Pass at Hubbard's Marina for a fishing trip. We got some great options. We got tons of trips, dolphin tours, kayak and paddleboard rentals, and more. Also, don't forget to tune in to our other channels. We got Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram. Look up Hubbard's Marina. Follow us, like us, leave us a review, tell us how we're doing, and come out and see us. Remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys, and thanks for hanging out.